Welcome to the Single Era Diaries, exploring the journey of a woman who hasn't experienced what it's like to be single in her entire adult life, and pretty much most of her teenage life too. Each episode will navigate the journey of finding a sense of identity, exploring the challenges of co-parenting, finding love of self, and healing. All whilst tackling the complexities of the checkered landscape of dating and dating apps, meeting new people, and operating solo in a world that celebrates couples, marriage, and codependency. I am your host, founder of Nascent Media and newly single woman, Jade, and this is the diary of my single era. How had I not even heard of the glow up? I mean, especially as it seems to be such a popular term in popular culture on social media, in the blogs that I read. I'm really astounded that I hadn't really come across the term glow up before, and I hadn't really heard of it until March this year. So as glowing up hadn't really landed in my lexicon, and definitely being in the midst of the post-breakup glow up. I mean, I'm definitely a continued work in progress, but I figured I'd get into it on the show. I wanted to deep dive into what the glow up is and how, if you're yet to enjoy your post-breakup or mid-breakup glow up, then let's see if this episode can help you get that moving along. And so if you're anything like me and you're not fully down with what a glow up is and what it involves, and how it can really make a difference to your single era journey, then let's get into it. So what is the glow up? Well, the term glow up originated in the US, and it's since been adopted pretty much by the mainstream and popular culture to describe a personal transformation, or as I would call it, what I like to call it, is a bit of an up level. And so the world of social media has become pretty obsessed with what's described as being glow up culture. Because, I mean, let's face it, the visual aesthetic of someone changing their appearance and becoming more attractive, improved, enhanced, works super well in the worlds of Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. But glowing up, it also really appeals to what I think we all have, which is this huge desire and need almost for self-improvement and personal development and transformation. So yes, while social media has definitely pushed the narrative of the glow up, along with really popularizing it as a term on things like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, I think it's safe to say that we've all been long fascinated with what used to be described in like the early noughties and 90s as being like a makeover. If you are on TikTok, which, by the way, it is my preferred social channel right now, feel free to follow me. I'm at JTG Inspired. But if you search for the hashtag glow up, you will see literally millions of videos under the glow up hashtag, documenting the before and after of those who have made some really positive changes in their lives to result in what often transpires to be a very powerful physical transformation. And in my own case, bearing in mind that I am moving towards that 6-month milestone post the unravelling, not full separation, but at least the confirmed unravelling of my former long-term relationship, I am definitely experiencing a glow-up moment. Although I would argue, and I think this might apply to most people who are having a glow-up, I would argue that it's really more of a resume moment. So a bit of a recalibrating back to my full levels of fabulous, confident and lovely self who had definitely been missing in action, probably since becoming a mum, but definitely from spring 2022, which was a year that was positive and negative. It saw my ex losing yet another job, joining my search business, he and I not working well together at all, and the challenges of the past few years with being the sole earner, being self-employed, being ineligible for any financial support throughout the pandemic, and topped off with completing an executive MBA. I mean, just one of those things alone feels like a justifiable reason to lose yourself a little. But all at once, I mean, I piled on the pounds. I wasn't making any time and didn't actually feel like I had any time to dedicate to exercise. I would literally go to my health club where my daughter would be doing her classes, my ex would be working out, and I would be sat in the club lounge and would be just continuing to work. So I thoroughly lost myself in 2022. And at the tail end of completing my executive MBA, I was back on antidepressants, I was drinking a lot. I was really, by October of last year, around my birthday, I was so thoroughly lost and unhappy. And I really convinced myself that feeling this miserable was just going to be my life now. It was just, this was it. And the truth really is that the relationship that I had with my ex, it had been disintegrating for several years leading up to this point. But like so many mums and dads who might be listening to this, I convinced myself that my happiness came second to keeping my family together for the good of my daughter. And so when it comes to the breakup of any relationship breakdowns, divorces, separations, those being the catalyst for glowing up, it turns out that I am far from being the only one who has benefited from the pain of heartbreak. In fact, there are several research studies that support the claim that having your heart broken is an effective driving force behind becoming a new, improved, and better overall version of yourself. So back in 2019, there was a study by a family law firm called Maguire's, and they specialise in family law, which of course includes advisory on divorce. And they surveyed over 1,000 adults who were divorced throughout the UK. And in somewhat resounding results, 65% of that survey group stated that there had been an improvement post their divorce in nearly all areas of their life. I mean, go figure. This improvement is known in psychology terms as being post-traumatic growth, which is a positive psychological change that we can experience as an after effect of going through a period of challenge and change and adversity. And so the assertion is that traumatic events like the breakdown of a long-term relationship pushes or forces you to improve your level of functioning, to become higher. And it's this higher functioning that affects not only your physical form, but your inner world too, and largely every aspect of your life, like becoming more sociable, being more active, pursuing passions, exploring new interests, and living a far healthier lifestyle. And I can really testify to this. I mean, one of the main drivers for the glow up that I am in the midst of was the fact that I simply did not want to be on my own. I didn't want to be at home wrestling with the emotions and the thoughts and the repeating, like cropping up in my head what had happened and what was happening. I didn't want to be sat around at home ruminating over that. And as I work for myself, I largely work from home. I sometimes work from coffee shops. I sometimes work from co-working spaces, but a lot of the time I'm working from home. And my health club has a lounge. It has like a club space where you can eat, you can socialise, you can work. And I'm really fortunate because I've got so many good friends there that I figured whilst I was going through this that rather than driving myself absolutely nuts by being at home on my own and ruminating over all of these things that were going, I needed to get out of the house. I needed to go somewhere else. And I just knew that my mental health could not contend with my being isolated at home. I needed to be around people and I needed to move my body again. And I think for many people who work either in employment or maybe they have like a go-to office that they go to every day, that is such a positive force because you are literally doing something every day. You're moving away from your problems. But for me, as a business owner, a self-employed person who, you know, is largely on my own unless I'm working with other freelancers, in the most part, sitting around at home would have completely, I think, finished me off. And so I was really also aware that I had frankly let myself go. I mean, the unhappiness of being in a relationship that has really run its course and is becoming toxic, which is definitely where my former relationship had started to reach at the latter stages of last year, really led to me and really contributed to my feeling pretty disgusted with myself. I mean, I really didn't like how I looked. I didn't like how I felt. I hated how my clothes fit me and that so many of them actually didn't fit me. And I really knew that I wasn't putting my best self forward. And as the relationship began to definitely unravel, and even more so as we got into this year where it had unraveled, I absolutely knew that if I ever wanted to find love again, which I definitely 100% do, then I would really need to sort my shit out. And sorting my shit out would frankly mean getting my fitness back. I had always, before I became a mum, I used to be a proper gym bunny. I mean, I've always loved dance. I've always danced. I've always done classes. I've always gone to the gym. And I always loved exercise and always loved the gym. And I really lost that when I became a mum. And I knew that I would need to find that again if I was going to put myself out there at some point to meet and attract a new and lovely man. I mean, the best version of myself is the version that that man deserves to get, not the out of shape, sad, lost, unhappy, frustrated version. Like, that's not the version that I feel like the new love of my life deserves to have. They deserve to have the much the really refined and in shape and happy, joyous version that I am, frankly. So my exercise regime, it did resume at the beginning of the year actually, but it really ramped up. It really ramped up around spring when I was told by the woman herself, who was actually sleeping with my now ex, who wasn't my ex at the time that it was going on, which in itself probably deserves its own podcast episode because it is pretty unbelievable. But yes, it is true. And yes, that did really happen. I was really told by the woman herself. But at that point, having to metabolize and process that information, I just knew that I could not be in my house. I knew that I had to be anywhere but my home. And so at that point, I would, in the evenings, I'd pack up my gym bag. I would obviously prepare my daughter's school bag and her lunch and everything for the next day. And I would do the school run. I would, get my laptop, get all of my kit and everything that I was working on for that day. And I would take my things after the school run and I would go and work for my house club. And I would work out in the morning. And then when I would pick my daughter back up from school to go back up to the health club for her to do her extracurricular activities, which also really ramped up once I had received that news, I would put her into her classes and then I would go and I would do another workout. And it took me probably about 6 months to work the confidence back up to do classes again, which I absolutely love doing classes now. I do love the gym as well, but it did take me some time to feel, despite much encouragement from so many of my friends to come along and to join them in a class, it took me a good few months to feel just good enough, for want of a better phrase, to actually do classes. But I was in essence working out twice a day. And I knew that I had to do everything that I could to try and work through the shock of all that I was feeling. I didn't have in my mind, oh, I need to have a glow up, I'm going to enter my revenge era, which again is another term that you'll see floating around on TikTok and social profiles, like the revenge era, the villain era, the glow up era. They're all sort of, interconnected. But that wasn't in my mind. I just knew that I had to work through this really deeply catastrophic feeling of betrayal and just utter earth-shattering heartbreak that my relationship hadn't ended only because we'd grown apart. It also ended because there was something else going on. And I knew that I needed to keep going because of my daughter. I could not just take to bed with a bottle of wine and cry under the duvet, which I'm sure there'll be other people that are listening to this that, when you're going through that initial part of a separation or a divorce, you do just want to curl up under the covers and turn the lights out and just make it all go away. And believe me, I really wanted to do just that. And I also couldn't do the classic old Jade who just parties it away or runs away to start a new life in a new city, or disappeared to the Balearics for the season. You know, all the things that I have done in the past that are really excellent at making yourself feel better, but they don't deal with the problem at all. I couldn't do any of those things because I'm a mum, first and foremost, and my daughter's school and her friends and her social and her whole life that, you know, can't just be uprooted on a whim. You know, I have a business that I have to run, and I have another business that's been sidelined, that's in, you know, needs to be kind of, there's lots of loose ends that need to be resolved with that. And essentially I'm an adult, which means I can't just run off to make myself feel better. And so I had to deal with those really hard and engulfing feelings, because my duty first and foremost, before anything else, is to be as good as a mum as I possibly can be, irrespective of what I'm personally going through. And so the solution to that was lots of working out, lots of going to the gym, lots of feeling very uncomfortable because I was so out of shape and so unhealthy at the beginning of the year and even around spring. And so, you know, for me, whilst I was processing that and sort of metabolizing that news, I couldn't, even for the first couple of weeks after having learned what I had learned, I couldn't even touch a glass of wine. I really had to focus on just staying lucid and feeling how destroyed I felt, but then somehow managing to channel that into movement and channeling it into things like lifting weights or just channeling it somewhere. And honestly, it's the one thing that I think managed to keep me sane. And being around people, working out in the gym, like literally feeling like I wanted to fall through the floor. I was in so much pain and anguish as I was processing what was going on. Exercise and exercising is 100% what kept me sane. And I cannot recommend exercise enough as being the golden, shining beacon of light solution when you're going through a breakup and either entering or kind of journeying through your single era. And so if you are listening to this episode and you're going through a breakup right now, or maybe you're firmly separated, maybe you haven't as yet though kicked into your glow up era, and maybe you're still in shock or in the sadness phase or the depression phase, or if you haven't got kids, maybe you're in the escapism phase, which, like, yeah, more power to you. I'd love to be in that. This feels like a great time to share with you that the Single Era Diaries merchandise line will be available for you to shop at the Nascent Media merch store. We're going to have a curated collection of sustainably produced organic slogan tees for you to let the world know that you are entering and enjoying your single era. And these will be on sale for you to purchase and enjoy. But right now, we're going through the release of the limited edition clothing and app line. And whilst we're doing that, you can subscribe to the Nascent Media newsletter for updates on all things the Single Era Diaries and releases from the whole Nascent family too. And we promise to only share good stuff and never to spam you, but you can also find out when that line of clothes are going to be released. So head to the show notes and click the link, which will allow you to go through to Nascent Media website and subscribe. So now, back to the episode. Or maybe you're going through the pure escapism phase, which if you don't have kids, then go for it by all means. But whatever stage or phase it is that you're going through right now, I really cannot recommend the gym enough for being so fantastic for contributing to your glow up. And what I've personally found is that the confidence that comes back as your body starts to take shape again, as you start to see yourself physically starting to kind of unearth from beneath whatever it is that is sort of covering you. In my case, it was a lot of additional weight, and I had stopped having my highlights, and I had really, like, you could just see written all over me that I was absolutely thoroughly miserable at the back end of last year and the beginning of this year. I looked depressed because I was depressed. And what I advocate for is that as you start to move your body again, that you start to feel a sense of confidence because you literally start to see yourself unearthing again. Like, you start to see the features of your face again. You start to see the toning of your body again, and you start to feel stronger. I marvel at the weights that I can now personally lift and move, and the fact that I can last like 20-30 minutes on the rowing machine on like the heaviest setting, and it just doesn't faze me. Like, I marvel at that strength that I have in my body, and you get this enormous sense of achievement from that. And I think that that in itself also contributes to the glow up, because you're changing your brain chemistry. You're teaching yourself, and you're showing up for yourself, and you're getting to reap the rewards, but in a delayed gratification way. It's not necessarily an instantaneous, oh my gosh, I've woken up and I now look like I'm a supermodel. It's like a very slow and gentle burn, but the very fact that you're continuing to show up for yourself and you're continuing to put that work in is incredibly transformative in how you feel about yourself. But also, you do get that dopamine hit as well. You do get that high, that release, where I cannot think of a time that I've ever been to the gym, even on the occasions where I really don't want to go. Like, I'm really like fully not into this, like I'm not in the mood, I'm tired, I'm grumpy, I've got a bit of a cold. Like, there has not been an occasion that I've had a workout where I felt worse at the end of the workout. I always feel so much better. And the other thing about it as well is, if you are going through that breakup and that separation, as again I can kind of testify to, the fact that you're being social and being around people, which is, you know, perhaps more important if you are a parent, if you're a mum in the most part, you might be a dad that sort of, you know, stay at home with your kids, or you're somebody that doesn't necessarily work around other people like myself. Like, it's kind of infrequent and sporadic as to when I'm working around other people. Being around other people is absolute medicine, and socializing is medicine. And even again, on the days that you don't feel necessarily like being that social, and there's so very many days where I feel like that, there's days where I have so much to do and so much to get through that the idea of having even like a 5-minute conversation is just like, I do not have time. But it is medicine, and that time actually kind of gets given back to you, because you feel so much better and you feel so good that your output and productivity will no doubt improve, because you feel much better about what it is that you're doing, because you've had a little bit of social activity. And as humans, we are of course wired for connection. So whilst the gym might not be fully your thing, and maybe you're thinking, gosh, my glow up era hasn't started yet, or, you know, I would really like to have a glow up, because I don't know, maybe you're one of these people that are still on those apps, because I'm still off them at the moment. But if you're still on them, you're probably wanting to, again, put your best self forward. And so if the gym isn't your thing, then just at least find a way of moving your body. It could be, you know, going for a run. It could be, you know, going to play a game of football. It could just be going for a walk. But whatever it is that you do, the neural pathways of your brain are going to thank you for it, and your future self is going to thank you for it too. Because if there's one other thing that I definitely do know to be true, it is that everything is energy, and the better that you feel about yourself, the higher your energy, the higher your vibration, and like attracts like. And if you want to attract a great relationship down the line, which again, I personally really do, I absolutely love being in love, and I really want to bring that into my life again. I know that I will need to be really high energy and high vibration in order to do that. And a glow up is a really great way to make sure that you are high energy. You know, looking at yourself in the mirror and feeling that sense of accomplishment because your outer exterior look is representative of how you're feeling inside. And that's a really key one here. I mean, this is not just only glowing up in terms of how you look physically, it's glowing up on how you feel physically inside. But if you really want to up that level and you're thinking about attracting love into your life again, then being the best version of yourself is really going to be part and parcel of that. So, you know, for me, I'm focusing on really continuing that glow up. I'm continuing to work out. I'm continuing to take the time to not drink as much wine as I would like to. And I have probably stepped back a little bit on the exercise. I'm not working out twice a day, which is what I was doing to get through that really tough period of processing and metabolizing that news that just massively knocks my sense of self-worth and my confidence to no end. But I have stepped the exercise back a little bit. But I think for the month of July, because I have holidays coming up and I'm going to be meeting new people and there's all of these things that I want to be doing, and with the business there's going to be lots of networking and lots of pitching, and I just really want to look and feel my best. So I think the continuation of the glow up era is something that needs to really carry on. According to science, it's a good 14 months following the demise of a relationship that glow up period continues. So I think with that in mind, by the end of the year, I'm reckoning I'm going to be channeling my inner supermodel. So I don't know, I might do like a Tyra Banks or something. But with that, as ever, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you are, wherever you are in your single era journey, if you're in the midst of your glow up, if you haven't quite got into it, or even if you're listening to this episode and you aren't in your single era, I know that I have some really fantastic listeners who aren't necessarily single. They're in relationships and they're listening regardless. There is no better time to start up your glow up. You can do that even if you are in a relationship. Your partner will love it, and it might inspire your partner to do that too. Maybe you could do it together. I think looking and feeling our best is one of the gifts that we should give to ourselves. And so thank you so very much for listening. I'm sending you all that are listening some deep glow up vibes. And if you haven't moved your body yet today, maybe whack on a YouTube workout or go for a run. Do something just to get that glow up moving along, because you absolutely deserve it. That's a wrap for today. Long live the single era. And if you are dating out there, date safely out there, won't you? Peace out. The Single Era Diaries is produced and distributed by Nascent Media and executive produced by me, Jade Graham. Podcasts grow by being liked and shared. So if you enjoyed today's show, then please be sure to like and share with a friend who you think will enjoy the show too. Subscribe, and if you have a moment to rate and review wherever it is that you listen to your podcast, that would be super appreciated too. Thank you for listening, and peace out.